Good afternoon, class, and my name is Coach Selby, and today we'll be going over connecting claims in our ninth grade English and language arts class. And first, I will go over our lesson plan to kind of explain what we'll be doing for today. So, our learning segment is connecting claims, which is another word for saying about writing a thesis statement when you write your papers. So first, I'll start off going over what knowledge you guys should have when it comes to writing a claim. So students must already have knowledge of writing a claim and explaining why they wrote it. So basically, I just saying about when you write a thesis statement, you must know the information that you're writing. What prior skills must students already know to be successful with this lesson? Students must, one, know how to read, have the skills to write, and to be able to memorize what they're reading and also writing when it comes to doing their claims. What prior academic knowledge must students already know to be successful with this lesson? This is really simple. Students must speak English and already be familiar with some of the words that we're going to be using today for our lesson. And for our standards, it will be that student will make planned oral presentations independently and in small groups. So today will be a small group lesson with about 4 to 5 students. What kind of that gives them kind of more and more instruction and kind of small intervention. Also, going back to our standard, students will use relevant details to support the main idea. Um, they'll also use grammatically correct language, including vocabulary and appropriate to the topic, purpose, audience as well. And they will also, excuse me, they will also summarize their information that they wrote as well. So for the national standard, I will go over that, which is to introduce precise claims, distinguish the claim from the alternative or opposing claims, and create an organization that establishes clear relationships among claims, counterclaims, reasons, and the evidence as well. So first, we will start off going over our PowerPoint, which kind of we're going to go over our PowerPoint, which kind of explains of connecting our claims. So what we'll do first will kind of be a do now, which is kind of basically just write a thesis statement about a personal narrative. So a personal narrative will just be something about yourself, or what you did over the summer, or just if you're playing a sport or something you did at home with your family or vacation. But I want you to write a strong claim about what you did over this, or what you're going to write about for your personal narrative. So while we're doing that, I'll kind of go over what I'm expecting. So first, I want you to plan an argument. So I want you to evaluate evidence that supports your claim. So when I say supports your claim, what evidence can you use to support your claim? So for example, let's say that if I'm going to write about my experience as a football coach, my evidence comes from me coaching football and also what I do on a day-to-day basis. So that's what's going to support my claim. So what standard that will go with that will be you're going to cite strong and thorough textual evidence to support analysis of what the text says, as well as inferences drawn from the text. So once we kind of get finished with our do now, we will go over, give you a passage so you can read and then kind of support what the author is saying. So I've already passed out different different passages. So the topic of the passages will really be about social media. So with social media, I passed out 4 or 5 different ones, and the topics will be how do teenagers react to social media? Why do teenagers use social media on a day-to-day basis? Um, how can social media harm others? And what are some pros and cons of social media? So while you're going through that, I want you to read the passage thoroughly, and then I want you to find the claim that best support what the author is saying, which kind of goes back to our standard, which says that cite strong and thorough textual evidence to support an analysis of what the text says, as well as inferences drawn from the text. So once that's already completed, I want you to find a partner that's next to you in our small group, and we're going to discuss it as a class so we can kind of understand what we're talking about for our claims. So once you kind of understand what you get from your claim, I want you to start kind of think to yourself, what has changed and what have you learned from about a claim? So what has changed your thinking before you knew what a claim was and what you know now? So once that question is already answered, I want you to answer the following question after that, which kind of says, how has your thinking changed? And if not, how have your previous thoughts been solidified? So if your previous thinking of a claim was already the same, which is fine, that's okay. But if your thinking has changed, I want you kind of to elaborate on both sides. If it has changed, say why, and if it hasn't, say that as well. So once we kind of already found our claim, we kind of want to still kind of plant our argument in that. So once we kind of find what the author is saying in the articles, we have to find what is the author trying to say. What is the main focal point of his claim, or I'm sorry, the author's claim in the passage. So is the author trying to persuade you to read and tell you why social media is so important, or to tell you that why social media is not important, or even the pros and cons of social media, or just the different aspects of the passage that we have that the author kind of explains of what is important. And then after we kind of go into that, we're going to start writing our own claims independently. So once we do that, I want you to write arguments that to support claims and analysis of topics tests using valid reasoning and relevant sufficient evidence. So, I have any questions so far? Okay, so I have any questions, and I'll keep going on with the lesson. So kind of going back when we first started class, I want you to kind of think of your personal narrative. And with the personal narrative, like I said, I want you to write about it's about you yourself. So with the personal narrative, it can be your own experience or something that you've been through or whatever it is. But what I want you to do is I want you to make a strong argument and a strong claim to explaining what you're writing about. So we have a chart here, and I can show it to the class, which kind of goes over pretty much. You have different ways to write your claim, so I want you to use this guide to pretty much guide you and kind of organize what you want to write about for your personal claim. So I'll go over it. So the first step will be the overview of the issue and your claim. So with the overview of the issue could be the overview issue of the the article that you have or the overview issue of what you're writing about in the personal narrative. And then your claim comes into that. And I want you to give 2 reasons why you're with the outcome or what happened or whatever the case may be. And then lastly, I want you to offer a solution or restate your claim. And when I say restate your claim, it kind of means to just kind of go back over into detail what your claim is and why it is important. And then we have another one, which is step 2, which is here's the issue, which is you're laying out that this is what the issue is with the passage that you read or the story, the things that you have going on in your personal narrative. And after that, you do the first thing you thought, and then what you learned, and then lastly, you do now what you think since you kind of learned from that experience or what the author is saying in that passage. And then for our third step, we're going to overview of the issue. So with the overview of the issue, you're going to talk about what's the main issue or the main problem in your personal narrative or in the article that you have that you're going to write about. So you have one side thinks, then you have another side thinks, and then last you have I believe, which would be your personal opinion. And then lastly, for our step, for the last option we have, you can do the overview of the issue. And then once you have the overview of the issue, you're going to add to that, the next will be is here's what I'm thinking. Use your mind and kind of think about what is on your mind now since you're working on this personal narrative, and when you're writing your claim. Next, we have a question some people raise. So let's say we're still talking about the articles about social media. So with the social media, what are questions that people usually have when it comes to social media? is how is social media going to benefit me, or how is social media going to hurt me, or why should I use social media and why I should not use social media. And then lastly, we have my answer to that question. So you answer that question once you ask about either about the passage or your personal narrative. And then lastly, I want you to do in the end, which basically I want you to conclude everything that will help you support that claim. So basically, what I just went over, this is just a resource to help you organize and consider things when writing your essay and to help you connect your claims. So once we kind of understand why we are writing our claims, I'm going to give an assignment basically going over, um, I want you to write a rough draft for social media. So for social media, I want you to write your own personal draft. Use all the resources. I'll use all the resources that you have. So we have articles floating around the classroom, and use those different articles to use resources. And I want you to cite textual evidence from that passage to help you write your claim. And when I say cite textual evidence, that's just basically saying that use what the author was saying in that article and help you to write your claim. And how will that evidence help you support your claim as well? And then lastly, we will go over a TED Talk, which will basically help us kind of understand about writing claims. And then once we kind of get that, then we'll complete our lesson and we can start completing our assignments. Okay, so we just completed our video, and everyone should understand about writing claims. So if I have any questions, you can feel free to ask, and I will be floating around the classroom to kind of give more one-on-one instruction since we are working in small groups. And that will conclude my presentation.